Hello everybody, this is Michelle Fox and welcome back to The Simple Quilter. Today's topic is again about quilt room organization and decluttering. Now, I've been posting videos about quilt room organization and decluttering for several years now. If you're interested in seeing those, you can click on the playlist above. Now, compared to a lot of quilters, my quilt room is really pretty organized, but the truth is quilt rooms, sewing spaces, hobby rooms, craft rooms, they are going to get messy and disorganized a lot. Quilt room organization and decluttering is simply an ongoing process. It is not a final destination. Because if you're using your quilt rooms, they're going to be a mess. Because we're pulling out fabric, we're pulling out books, we're pulling out paper and pencil and graph paper to sketch on, we're getting our design boards out, we've got our ironing paraphernalia out. So they're going to get messy if you're using them, and that's just the truth of it. I really believe that the majority of quilters face this problem. Now, there may be a few quilters out there whose quilt room is in order a lot even when they use it. Now, I haven't met any of those quilters, but if you're one of those quilters, please tell me in the comments below how you do it. I really think that if you're one of those quilters, you are the exception, you are not the rule, because most of us have messy and disorganized quilt rooms. Now, I'm in the process of doing a mini quilt room makeover, and I decided to do this because my quilt room has just gotten messy and kind of piled up, but my likes and dislikes have changed, and I really want to clean my space up, declutter a lot more, and I want it to have a cleaner, crisper look. Right now, it's a huge disaster. Well, right now, actually, as I'm filming, I have really cleaned it up quite a bit. But I can't show you the entire room yet because I am working on my mini makeover quilt room. My mini quilt room makeover. Yeah, there we go. So I do want to show you some pictures of my big disaster, though. So here they are. In the first picture, you're going to see my cabinets and stuff piled up all over the floor. And the reason this stuff has gotten piled up is because a lot of it is paper clutter that I don't really know what to do with. I do know what to do with. I got to get it out of here and go through everything and sort it all out. The second picture you see is the mess that's under my table. And I really don't like things piled up on the floor. However, I've been making purchases at a greater rate than I have been sewing, so that is piling up under there. And then as you can see here in the corner, that's my catch-all corner. I'm always trying to keep that clean, but that's a tough one for me. Now, the biggest issue for me in keeping my quilt room clean and decluttered is simply I have too much stuff. I really do have too much stuff, and I'm constantly looking for ways and things to declutter my quilt room. Now, I would say for the past 9 to 10 months, I have really cut back on what I have purchased. However, prior to that, I made a lot of big purchases, a lot of them, and things piled up. They've piled up all over, even under my table, as you saw in that previous photo. I just have tons of inventory. And not only have I been purchasing things, but I have been sewing up a storm. I sew a lot every week, and my quilt room stays a mess. And I do have to say, I'm not one to clean my mess up after every time I make a mess. Now, Jared talked about that in the last video, and he said that he cleans up after he makes a mess. I'm going to work on that. That's a work in progress for me. I'm going to work on that, but right now and previously, that has not been happening. So both of those things have added to this accumulating mess that I have in my quilt room. Now, I don't work very well in chaos. I get kind of overwhelmed and it's hard for me to focus. So I really am having to change things up, get rid of more, like I said, and get this room reorganized so that I can Whew, get back to sewing and creating. Okay, so I want to just show you a quick picture of one of my big purchases, and you can see why these big purchases are adding to my mess. So in this photo, you can definitely see that I have been buying lots and lots of fabric. Now, in my first organizational video, I think it was one of my first ones, I talked about how cleaning up my quilt room and all was really a new journey for me. It's not, and I really wasn't looking at it as a final destination, because I really do know that quilt rooms get messy. We clean them, we get them decluttered, and lo and behold, they get messy and decluttered again. It's just going to happen to all of us. But I do think that there are things we can do to help keep the mess somewhat under control. And for me, limiting inventory is one of the biggest, because I really do get a big mess when my inventory gets out of control. And it's out of control. And not only does the mess make it an ongoing process, but you know, my tastes, my likes and dislikes change. I buy new things, I get rid of things, it's kind of like fabric. I used to like darks, now I like brights. Well, I used to like that vintage look, and I still like the vintage look, but I really am moving towards a cleaner, crisper looking quilt room. Something that truly looks less cluttered. Okay, now I'm going to show you a few pictures of some areas that I'm really going to be focusing on. Now, in my previous videos, I talked about how I always took advantage of my vertical storage space. Well, and I have done that in my quilt room, and I will continue to do some of it, but I really need to cut back on some of it, because I really feel like I have a lot of visual clutter in my room. And I'm going to show you this picture. It's a picture of magnetic memo board on my wall, and I'm going to show you that. And you can see how it's adding a look of being cluttered to my room. Another example that I want to show you is I really don't have a lot of counter space, and I do try to keep my countertop fairly uncluttered and organized. Now behind me, this pretty much stays the same. This is working well for me, and I'm really not wanting to change much right here. But on the other side of my table, I have a counter, and I'm going to show you a picture of that. I'm going to show you how all this clutter is really messing up my sewing mojo. So in this picture, you can see, you can't even see the countertop, I don't think. Maybe there's a tiny bit you can see, but there's really just not a whole lot you can even see on the countertop. Okay, another area I'm really focusing on decluttering, and that is the top of my cabinets. I have a lot of vintage storage containers up there, and almost every single item you are going to see up there has something in it. So I am going to be taking care of that. But here you can see that I have lots and lots of stuff on top of my cabinets. You know, in this journey that I'm on with keeping my quilt room decluttered and organized, it also changes, because sometimes we just find things that work better than others. For example, behind me, this is working really good for me, and there's really not anything I want to change back here. Now, this I just added fairly recently, and I like it because I can just reach back there and grab my scissors, and there's a space for everything in this area. So this area really does pretty much stay decluttered and organized. Okay, so I was looking through my photos, and I want to show you kind of pictures of my quilt room organization journey. I have pictures clear back from 2012, and I'm just going to go through those because I thought you might enjoy seeing how my quilt room has kind of evolved. So the first pictures that you're going to see are from April of 2012, and this is when we first redid this room. And this kind of was the beginning of my quilt room. Okay, so in these pictures you can see that Wes and Jared installed new laminate flooring and cabinets. I had a table built in that I had a cabinet maker come in. He built my table and he put down the countertops. And as you can see around the room, I really didn't have a lot of inventory, so things are really looking pretty open and pretty nice in my quilt room. Now, I do want to apologize. Some of these videos are kind of dark. I did everything I could to lighten them, but some of them are just dark. But I think you can still get a pretty good idea of what my quilt room was looking like. Okay, now that was fun. When we first redid this room, oh, I was so excited. Well, I'm excited to be in my quilt room even when it's messy. It's harder for me to be in it when it's messy, but I really do like my quilt room, and I feel very fortunate to have such a nice space. Okay, the second group of photos that I have are from 2014. So 2 years later, I added a different table for cutting. You can see that in the pictures here. And you can tell my inventory is starting to grow a little bit. Now I just had a couple of videos to show you, and one of them's kind of dark. But again, I think you can kind of get an idea of what is going on in my quilt room. Now, the next photos I have are from 2019, so 5 years later. That's when I got my new barn doors cabinets, which I love, and those work for me. Now, in my mini quilt room makeover, I've changed that up a bit, but those cabinets work for me, and those are going to definitely stay. You'll see the little couch that we brought into my quilt room, and we brought that here in 2017, and I just love that little couch. And hey, Milo has to have a place to sleep. He's over there sleeping now. Sometimes you might hear him snoring just a bit, but he's over there on the couch. He likes to get on the couch and look out the window, but we all like the couch. I like to sit on it. My family members like to sit on it. If you listen close, you can hear Wes in there snoring too. Also, you can see the picture of my cutting table. Now, I really like this cutting table. I don't see myself getting rid of this cutting table simply because I can raise it up to do cutting standing up, or I can lower it down low and I can sew there. Or if a friend comes over, they can sew there. So I really don't see myself getting rid of this table because really it's working good for me now. Now, the last pictures I want to show you are pictures from when I reorganized my room the last time and reorganized my fabric stash. That's when I put all of the largest portion of my fabric stash in my cabinets, my barn door cabinets, because I really, really like those cabinets. And that is one thing, the way my fabric is stored behind those doors, that is one thing I do not intend to change, because that has been a game changer for me, because I can access the majority of my fabric just at a glance, and I really like how that works for me. Plus, I can shut the doors and keep it protected from the light and the dust, and hopefully any bugs that might find their way into my quilt room. Hopefully none do, but you never know. Again, I just want to re-emphasize the importance of understanding that quilt room organization and decluttering is not a final destination. It is truly a journey. So don't give up on keeping your quilt room decluttered and organized, because I really do feel like that helps us create better. Or anyway, it does. It helps me to be more creative and more productive. Okay, so in the comments below, be sure to give me your thoughts about what you think of quilt room organization and decluttering being a journey. And let me know where you are in your journey. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't, please share with a friend, and as always, leave a comment. I love to get the comments, and I try to reply to each and every one. So until next time, have fun quilting.